Right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to episode 35 of the No Punches Pulled podcast with myself, Jay's Fight Talk, and Mr. Liam Tully. Good evening, boys. Big fight week ahead.
Yeah, good evening, boys. Is it me or can everybody else hear birds tweeting in background?
I've got my windows open.
Can't hear
that's
birds
fine. I thought it was me. They all want to listen.
Yes, boys. Tottenham Hotspur then this weekend, the Ring Fatal Fury, I believe it's being billed. 5 good fights on the card. Obviously, the main events where all the headlines are going to be at. Before we get into that, we'll gloss over what we saw. Let's just talk about the main event, really. That's the talking point, isn't it? We watched it Saturday night, Jay. Benn Whitaker stopping Liam Cameron in 2 rounds, right in the wrong of Riyadh last October. Liam, you weren't with us on Sunday night, should I say? Sorry, not Saturday. I'll just get a quick couple of minute glossary from the pair of you on what we saw Sunday evening, and then we'll go into Eubank. Benn, evening, Humble Apple Crumble. Hope you're well, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, look,
top man.
We saw what I expected it anyway, and that's not me trying to be arsey, but I picked Benn Whitaker to make it fairly comfortable. I'd said from the onset of the rematch being made that whatever happened out in Saudi would not play out again here, wherever that may be. I just thought that Liam Cameron had the fight of his life, and Benn Whitaker had an off night. Irrespective of whether we thought he quit or not, that his skill set's never been in question for me. And the second he brought Andy, I thought he'd win anyway, but the second he brought Andy Lee into the camp, that just solidified it for me. And I stuck to my guns. I got emotional in the walk-on. Me and you were talking off camera because he heaped so much pressure on himself with the walkout, the choice of song, the gospel choir, the way he acted. And I said to you, he cannot lose this fight. He will not lose this fight. It didn't play out how I thought it would. I thought Liam Cameron would have offered a little bit more in terms of an opponent. But look, Benn Whitaker did there what he should have done 6 months ago, and that's walk through a domestic level opponent. No disrespect to Liam, but that's what he is. Yes, he's held the Commonwealth, and I think he's fought for it 3 times. But ultimately, Benn Whitaker's an Olympic silver medalist that's destined for great things. If you listen to his promoter, that's not me saying that. So he should walk through what he did on Sunday night. He should have done in Saudi Arabia. So he's just back on track. No fanfare, no furore. He don't get high fives for that. That's what he should have done. He's done his job right. Second time of asking. But no, great performance.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, look, let's go further. Liam Cameron, especially at light heavyweight, is an English level fighter. He's, Commonwealth title days are down at 160 and 168 respectively. This is what I thought Benn would do in Saudi. This is what I said he would do in the rematch. Not as confidently as Jay, granted, but if you go back last week, I said I think he would make a statement and stop him. Yeah. And he heaps the pressure on himself, that kid, doesn't he? He doesn't want to do a nice, quiet walkout that's over in 30 seconds. He wants a full gospel choir and he wants all eyes on him. And look, fair play to the lads, because we saw the emotion. We heard the corner mic after the fight. You could hear him crying when he's with Andy Lee in the corner. Then he cries at the press conference for the written press and all the YouTube outlets afterwards. There was a lot of pressure and emotion on him, but let's rein it in. That's what he should have done. Yeah. He's now done it. We're not going to get carried away. Liam Cameron has already come out and said he's moving down to 168 because 175 isn't for him. Again, Jay and myself have said this since before the first fight, that Liam Cameron can perform better at a lower weight. That's all that's to be said. The next step for Benn Whitaker is the British and Commonwealth against Lewis Edmondson. I don't want anything else for him. We don't want some Eastern European or American brought over.
That's an all boxer fight, isn't it, Liam, as well?
Yep. So give him Lewis Edmondson for the British and Commonwealth. Even if he's got to go to Southampton for it, I don't care. Just let it happen, because that's the steps we need now. Because then next year, Joshua Buatsi, Callum Smith, maybe even Anthony Yard or Lyndon Arthur, depending on how their fight goes on Saturday. That's the path we want to see. But let him pick up 2 legitimate trinkets now. This IBF international one shouldn't matter. Get him towards the British and Commonwealth.
Stopped too early or stopped at the right time before we move on?
Liam Cameron was only going one way.
Bang on for me. Bang on. We all saw what Howard Foster saw, and Liam Cameron himself has come out and said, look, it is what it is. I was hurt. The ropes kept him up. Standing at 8 count wasn't allowed under that sanctioning body. Me, personally, I would have given him a count. I'd have given him a 10 count. You know, I'd have given him as though he went down. Because if the rope and turnbuckle hadn't been there, his ass would have touched down. But he was done.
I think me and you called it early, didn't we, Jay, in the watch along in real time? I thought it did look early, but then when we look at the replays, I think when we watched the replay, we were like, okay. I know there's still talk and debate about it, but I was happy enough. I watched a lot of interviews today. I watched interviews with Liam himself.
Yeah.
I watched interviews with Frank Warren, Lee Eaton, pretty much anyone who was close and within Liam's camp. And there's no complaints about the stop.
No, they can't. They can't. I mean, he was hurt.
They're not complaining. I don't really.
He was hurt from the first shot. The first shot that buzzed him, he was hurt, and then he was at one stage knocked out with his eyes open. He would have got badly hurt. I know we'd said jokingly before the first bell, "Fuck, it's Howard Foster. Here comes an early stoppage."
And then we were talking about Howard Foster for all of the first round.
we got that, but no, Howard Foster's experienced enough. I know a lot of people give him stick because of the George Groves, Carl Froch stoppage, but
he's done hundreds. Ringside.
Yeah, but he's done hundreds of fights, hundreds of top level fights, and he's saved that many people from. It could be death or brain damage. So no, it's I'd rather it be stopped too early than too late. I know that sounds corny and cliche, but I've got a close member of my family that suffers with brain trauma through boxing, so I know that it only takes one. So no.
Right. Frank Warren said that the exact same thing as you, Jay. I'd rather it have been stopped too early than too late, and I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. Really, I don't think it's highly controversial or anything like that.
Liam, like Jay said, and like we said in the aftermath, Liam Cameron was out on his feet. His eyes were gone whilst being open at one point. And look, everyone wants to see the thunderous knockout, but did we really need to see Liam Cameron completely on his back, maybe having medical people around him? No, we didn't. Howard Foster gets a lot of stick, but he done his job on Sunday. That fight was over. Liam Cameron was 2 or 3 punches away from being rendered unconscious, and no one needs it.
Look, let's differentiate between fans and real boxing fans. Real boxing fans don't care how it ends as long as we get a definitive ending and a good fight. It's dickheads in tight t-shirts and turkey teeth and hair transplants that knock him out. Fucking hell, he should have let him go, mush. I'd have done this and I'd have done that. Shut the fuck up, right? That fight got ended when it was supposed to end at 40-1.
And on that bombshell, we're moving on from Ben Whittaker and Liam Cameron. JFT starting as he means to go on. Gotta love the man. Right, a few comments to get through, boys, before we move into what's going down at Tottenham Hotspur this weekend. Big up David Rope. Evening to you, your legend.
Good
Go
evening,
and subscribe
brothers.
To that great channel if you haven't
It'll
already.
make a change to get some wins at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season, won't it?
Hopefully tonight's show will be parliamentary. I like it a lot. Had Whittaker for the KO. Good pick there, humble.
Yeah, man.
Big up to Red Corner Boxing.
Yes,
Jam.
Jams. Red Corner Boxing.
Great channel.
Follow them if
loving
you're not.
the prediction concept that you and your man, Mr. Neutral, have got going on, my friend. So keep that going. Agreeing with Jay here a lot. Big up to Abdul as well. Appreciate you, my man.
Thanks for joining.
Jay called it spot on with the second round stoppage. He did. Jay's Fight Talk with another great win. Saved him for another day. Yeah, absolutely. Quick question from Abdul Boy, so I guess we'll cover it now. He's asked. Any thoughts on what we saw Saturday night? Obviously, we did the watch along for both of these fights. Any thoughts on what we saw there?
Warrington looked like a fighter who hadn't won in 3 years before Saturday night. That's the reality. There was rust there. There was doubts. You could almost see the doubts in his mind playing out through the punches. But those 10 rounds will do him the world of good for whatever is left of his career, be it Michael Conlon and done, be it Michael Conlon then another couple of fights. He needed those 10 rounds. He's, banished a few demons. And like we said, first win in 3 years. The Dalton Smith performance, having watched it back, has grown on me. look, Jermaine after the second round only wanted to survive. He had no interest in engaging
He
or
broke
doing
his
anything.
jaw, didn't he, or something?
Yeah, that's what he said, other than running away and trying to last the distance. So that performance has grown on me, and Dalton Smith has shown that he can fight at a reasonable pace across 12 rounds. Look, that's what he needs before a world title fight, not 1 or 2 round blowouts. But it's another step up to Puello.
Yeah, look, Josh Warrington, as you said, looked like a guy that's not fought, let alone won in a while. He was trying too hard. He was a little bit off with his timing. His footwork was horrific. He was falling over his front foot and getting clipped a lot with shots that he wouldn't ordinarily get clipped. But look, he got the win. Conlon was there ringside, so I'm assuming that's the fight they make next. It's a big fight, be that in Leeds or Belfast. What I saw from Dalton Smith, look, his opponent was okay, right? But I've always been on the fence previously with this Azim fight, and what I saw on Saturday night, I'm leaning towards Adam Azim more so than ever before. I was always on the fence previously, but I just think Adam Azim's too quick for him, and I think he's a little bit
Azim's
trickier.
got back to Jay, doesn't he?
I think so, yeah, and I think he hits a little bit harder in terms of concussive. Dalton hits hard in clusters, but Azim hits hard all the time, and speed as well. He's got that Amir Khan speed, and I'm not just saying that because he's Asian. He boxes in a very, very similar style to Amir Khan, in and out in clusters. And I wanted to see a little bit more from Dalton. Look, he followed him all night, and I don't mean followed him to cut the corner off.
He only ramped it up the last few rounds, didn't he?
He just walked forward, plodding in front of him, like just following him, and it seemed a little bit basic. I'd have liked the corner to change it up sort of round 8 and give him some advice to try and get him out of there. Whether they did that and he just couldn't, who am I? It's easy for me saying that sat in my living room watching, but I wanted to see a little bit more. Yes, the rounds will have done him good and it's a tough opponent, but
we hear that all the time, don't we, Jay? We talk about it a lot on here. It annoys me. Oh, good for him to do the rounds. Nah, it wasn't good for him to do the rounds.
Smash him in and get him out of there and scream for the world title.
Played overtime, go and put on a performance. But yeah, look, it was what it was. I thought it was a shit card on Saturday.
It was horrendous. Yeah, it was a tough watch, boys.
Yeah, it was a tough watch. We're nearly falling asleep. Big up to Luca. I hope you're well, mate. Yeah, the scorecard. And as Jan said down here, scoring the 9th round as well. Bizarre what happened in that Higginson Cup.
I had it a draw. To
be honest. It was a weird one. Yeah, Puello, Subriel, Matias. Puello's not guaranteed to get through that. So we'll see how much Matchroom and Dalton want Matias if he beats Puello. Because I don't imagine the noise will be as deafening for your WB shot if you're facing Subriel Matias. But prediction shows will be out later in the week, Abdul. We just preview it on this show, but we'll get full predictions for the big card this Saturday. But let's get into it, boys. We may as well now. Eubank, Benn. Look, we'll cover a bit of the undercard, but realistically, this weekend it's about Eubank and Benn, isn't it? Some decent fights on the undercard. I think McKenna Smith's probably the pick of them, but they've done their little grand arrival thing that they do on these Riyadh Ring magazine cards or whatever they're called now. Taking place at 160. Eubank's got a little rehydration clause on, or he can't reweigh in above 170. Is it, or 168 or something like that? But what do we think? Then are we going to see any fireworks fight week? They've sold the life out of it in the last few months, so I'm anticipating it to be quite a reserved week. I think maybe they'll get in each other's face at the weigh-in on Friday, but I can't see. I don't know if any of you saw a little face-off they did about an hour ago, but they're about 2-3 meters away from each other.
Conor Benn can't help himself. It took everything he had within him not to say or do something. Conor Benn cannot help. He's too emotional. Chris Eubank Jr. has played an absolute blinder right up to now, and I'm hoping he maintains his composure, keeps his parliamentary procedure, and don't lose his shit. We've never really seen him lose his shit. Billy Joe Saunders has tried. They've all tried, and he doesn't lose his temper. Conor Benn, on the other hand, is dying to rip his head off, and I believe that will be the difference in this fight. Emotion. I think if whoever maintains and keeps their composure should win this fight for me. I think it's all down to composure. I think size will play a factor as well later in the fight. But I think it's going to be, as cliche as it sounds, a fight of two halves. I think it's Conor's to win in the early rounds. And as we saw against Billy Joe Saunders, Eubank can do it down the stretch, and his last 4 fights have been at 160, I believe. So everyone's making a big thing about him doing it at 160. Conor,
his best weight's 160. It always
Chris
has
is fine
been.
at 160. Chris is absolutely fine. It's perfect weight for him.
The
Conor,
first
on the
fight
other
was at
hand,
157, Jay, and he was a
I know.
skeleton.
Connor's what, 5'5" on a good day? He ain't a big dude, is he?
Mate,
Because I don't
the
think Chris
size difference
Eubank,
between them's it's crazy.
but I don't think Eubank's a
miles
big dude. He's not 6'1", 6'2", is he? 5'10", 5'11"?
Yeah.
I'm excited for it, man. You can't not be.
Oh, look, they're going to sell, Liam. They're going to sell the life out of it this week, aren't they? One way or another.
I don't think they are, mate. I think the selling's done. I think they will be gagged and bound by Turkey at risk of losing some of their purse if any antics happen this week. I don't think we're going to see any close-to-close facing until final instructions from the referee either. I think they're going to be kept apart, mate. They've done the selling. I actually think this is going to be a very dry week. Look, like the selling's done, the fight's done. It's 968 days after they should have boxed the first time, for God's sake. You don't need any more antics or vitriol or anything this week. It's going to be a very subdued week until the first bell goes around 10 past 10 on Saturday. I'm more intrigued in 2025 for this fight than I was in 2022. And I think that's more to do with I have more questions now about where Chris Eubank Jr. is.
Yeah, he didn't look good to me last time, Eubank.
No, there's more questions about Eubank now, so there's more intrigue for me in the fight, but I think it's going to be a pretty quiet week, mate. There's too much on the line. These two were probably too scared of losing some of their purse or jeopardising the fight by doing anything stupid, and they'll be on their best behaviour for Uncle Turkey.
Well, I've no doubt Eubank will have something planned for the presser or something.
Probably.
Like that.
Can I just
go on,
put this out there as well, because I'm sick of hearing about it. I don't think Conor Benn hits that hard. I think Eubank hits harder than Benn.
Mate, he never moved his last 2 opponents. I think somebody put it, Jam put it, been fighting at 154. Didn't he fight Pistol Pete Dobson or whatever it was?
Dobson,
and he fought another guy, in fairness, the other guy, didn't he get caught for a doping violation afterwards or something?
Yeah.
And
the irony, Conor Benn's first opponent back.
Let's be real, Jams. He's had 1.5 fights at 154, so he's hardly been boxing at 154. He's been sat on the couch serving his alleged secret ban, and then he's took 10 pounds off and fought an American. So I think that you can see that there's a massive discrepancy. 170, Ben Eubank's going to weigh in at. Ben will weigh in at what, 164, 166 maybe at a push. He's too little to carry too much weight, and I believe that will kill him down the stretch. I believe that's what's going to zap his cardio down the stretch. Plus, he don't get any extra help, does he, this time? So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, look, there's no doubting about it, as Jams has put in the latest comment in the chat as well. He hasn't looked like he's carried power up from 147 to 154, but irrespective of people's opinions on it, I'm just saying that the concrete facts of since he's done these last 2 fights that we're talking about, since the first Chris Eubank Jr. fight was scheduled, he hasn't looked like he can punch the way he was knocking Chris Algieri out cold. Chris Van Heerden as well, didn't he fight Samuel Vargas? He got rid of him in a round. He was folding people, wasn't he? And then all of a sudden,
knocking people dead.
And let's not get beat around the bush about Junior as well. People can say what they want about Junior. He's never been that good. One thing Chris Eubank Jr. is he's absolutely nails. Yes, he got caught against Beefy or whatever it may be, but this guy's took full big right hands from George Groves, who's a thunderous puncher back in his prime as well.
He outboxed James DeGale, for fuck's sake. People forget that. I know it was James DeGale's last fight, but James DeGale, right, is Olympic gold medalist, IBF middleweight champion, was one of the best of his time. Junior dealt with him, took everything he had and sort of beat him up towards the end of that fight. Yes, it was his last fight. He went toe to toe with Billy Joe Saunders. I'm not one of the ones that said he won that fight and he got beat in that fight, but he won 4 of the last 6 rounds. Came on really strong. Billy Joe Saunders is one of the most awkward middleweights imaginable. Outboxes everybody bar Canelo. So people need to not sleep on Junior and just think that he's just tried to be a carbon copy of his dad, not being as good. And the two hung up on the beef. He put that to bed in the rematch. You can say what you want about Liam, But if you're not able to fight, don't take the fight. It's that simple. Junior dealt with him in the rematch, and I know the Smiths, so I'm not biased in any way, shape, or form. I just think Junior's better than Ben in every element. I just think he's better than him. I think he's a better boxer. I think
agree.
I don't know. Well, I'd say he's got a better chin because
I would go as far to say, Jay, it'd be a big upset if Conor Benn wins on Saturday.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Ben's been down in one fight more times than Eubank's been down in his whole career. Do you remember? He got knocked down twice, didn't he?
Pay now, wasn't it, or something?
You're cool, yeah.
2 or 3 times he knocked him down. Yes, he got back up, which shows heart and determination and grit and balls and all that.
Oh, look, he'll come for it. Conor will come for it and he'll have a go, but,
Well, that's his chance. That's the best chance he's got. He's taking Eubank out in the first 4 rounds. First 4 rounds. As it goes on, if Eubank can keep him off of him, which I believe he can, I think down the stretch is where it's going to, the weight advantage is good. A bit like when Khan fought Canelo, dancing around in boxing. Obviously, Conor's not going to be able to box, but what I'm saying is it was more even for the first 4 or 5 rounds.
Yeah.
Because Khan had his speed, didn't he? Could get in and out.
Yeah.
So Ben's power bar's going to be at full point. So he's going to be able to mix it with him a bit, and then the weight's going to come into play, and then I think Eubank will pull away from him down the stretch.
There's 2 avenues for Conor Benn in the fight, and I agree with your comment here, Jams, on James DeGale. Evening, Masterworks. Hope you're well, my friend. Thanks for being with us. There's 2 avenues, boys, I think, for Conor Benn. If Chris Eubank Jr. fell off a cliff and he's shot, which is possible as well, or if magically the weight, if the rehydration bothers him. If neither of those factors are in play, I don't see a path to victory for Conor Benn. Honestly, I think it's Eubank Jr.'s this narrative that he can just come out and steamroll Eubank Jr., who's fought.
You mean iron him out? I'm going to iron you out.
Good evening, Mitch. Hope you're well, my friend.
Middle class upbringing. That he's going to iron him out on the cobbles, mate.
I just don't,
evening, brother.
I don't see that narrative at all. I don't know. Maybe I'm off the mark. No. Maybe we're lying in 2 rounds.
I agree. I just don't think he's a big enough guy, a big enough puncher to be able to just walk through Eubank. And I think Eubank's too clever to allow him to do that. First round Conor Benn knockout pending.
Yeah. Look, it's going to be interesting either way, isn't it? I know, Pat, you've been critical of the fight since it was announced, to be fair. And look, it's been made for the wrong reasons. You could probably argue that, but we can't lie about it. Come Saturday night, we're all going to be sat there watching it, and we're all going to be waiting in bated breath.
I was adamant
maybe apart from you, Pat, but the rest of us probably will be.
I was adamant I didn't want to see it. I'd have preferred to have seen Harlem Eubank, a more evenly matched fight at welterweight. But obviously, I'm excited for it now because it's happening. Doesn't matter what we think now, it's happening. And I was around for the original dad's fights, so it means a little bit more to me. But yeah, it's just a cash grab. And I think it's going to be detrimental to Conor Benn's career. I don't think Conor Benn will be the same after this.
I'm not going to lie as well. There's a rematch clause attached to it, Liam. It's like if Eubank Jr. does what most of us expect him to do on Saturday night, they won't be able to sell. The rematch wouldn't even sell out the O2.
I didn't even realise there was a rematch clause.
Yeah, there's a 2-sided rematch clause on Saturday. Look, if Benn flattens Eubank, then I think there's probably there's probably just cause for a rematch, similar to what Liam Smith did to him, and then the rematch happens, so on and so forth. I think because if the underdog wins and it's like that kind of thing, or he catches him cold, or he comes from behind to win a knockout where Eubank's dominating him or whatever, there's more narrative towards it there. If Eubank Jr. just completely dominates as a heavy favourite in the fight, who on earth wants to see a rematch?
No one.
Look, rematch clauses are a load of crap anyway, and we said that time and time again. The fact that a fight for absolutely no belts between a guy that's never fought in this weight class before and a guy who hasn't fought here for a few years has a 2-sided rematch clause, I think says everything about the fact this is a cash grab. Look, again, this fight is a cash grab. It's caught the casuals' eyeballs and attention even more because of all the vitriol and hatred and everything to do with Conor Benn over the last 24 months. That's the reality. And boxing is the type of sport that benefits off of drugs cheats failing and coming back more than any other. Jarrell Miller's got a stadium fight at Portman Road in June. We've seen it time and time again. It just happens in boxing. No other sport celebrates and awards people convicted of PAD pops more than boxing, because Conor Benn was nowhere near a stadium fight main event before the first Eubank fight not happening. That's the reality. It's intriguing, mate. I have said I'm more intrigued than I am in 2022, and I was the same as Jay. When this was announced, I had no interest in seeing it. However, come Saturday night, it's the biggest fight of the year for 1 week only, so we'll treat it as such, and we're going to enjoy it. It's just, yeah, there's a bad taste in my mouth about it for all the reasons we said, and there's just a case of not knowing what the hell is going to happen. Because I genuinely, is it just going to be all too much for Conor Benn? Is Chris Eubank all of a sudden going to just not be there in the way he would have been in 2022? We just don't know what's going to happen at all, do we?
Yeah, no, look, there is intrigue in it, don't get me wrong. Big up to Lloyd, who's in the chat. Hope you're well, my friend. Thanks for being with us as always. You, Connor SD. Yeah, Abdul, agreeing with what you boys have both said kind of around the commercial side of it. I don't think so, mate. I don't think that it'll be a fight that the ref or judges will have a factor in personally. Jam said, do you believe they're cashing out Benn? I do, to be honest. If he gets a look shot, then we'll see the rematch. Benn lose. It's clearly a financial fight that they're taking. I know they'll talk about my dad's legacy or whatever, the Eubank and Benn name, but he had Barrios on a plate for the WBC welterweight championship, and they decided to fight Eubank because it was more money and obviously more eyeballs or whatever it may be. So yeah, there's clearly that factor to it. But I want to ask you boys, any fights on the undercard that are particularly catching your eye? I know Smith McKenna's one for me personally. I'm sure it is for everybody.
Yes, it's Smith McKenna, mate, and then Billum Smith and Glanton is on my mind because I've been impressed by what I've seen from Glanton today. And you've got a question where CBS is going to be out after losing his world title and taking the beating that he did against Zerdo. So, but it's Smith McKenna. Is McKenna getting this opportunity too soon? Is Beefy over the hill and just coming back, hoping he's got some magic left after we've not seen him since the Eubank Junior rematch and obviously pulling out against Josh Kelly last September? That's the one for me because Liam Smith with even half of his potential left beats Aaron McKenna for me, but it's just about, is he still there? Does he have enough for resist to change?
Just the timing thing, Jay, isn't it? It's one of those, they're trying to grab him because they think he's over the hill, but is he really over the hill? And we're going to find out. Could be a rude awakening for McKenna.
Could be. I think it will be.
Exactly like when Smith fought on the first Taylor Serrano card against Jesse Vargas. Vargas called for him just because he thought Liam Smith was washed but was a good name as a former world champion, and Liam Smith put the brakes on him and stopped him in the 10th. I think something similar could happen on Saturday.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon Glanton's getting a lot of mentions today. I've seen Liam as well, so yeah, it'd be interesting. I think there's a good time now to get CBS after what happened in Riyadh against Zerdo. Lloyd's got Beefy by knockout.
I think
CBS needs to win this. Pat says he's out of picture. Beefy McKenna. Yeah, Beefy McKenna's definitely. I think that's nailed on to be up there for fight of the night. Definitely. Chev and Vidal as well.
Look, we're going to find out what Chev's learned from European level.
Yeah, I'm not big on that fight. I'm with Jay. I think that could be a snooze fest.
I think it will. Chev Clark's never in exciting fights. Vidal Riley's rarely in exciting fights. So, yeah, roll on. TKV Adelaide 2. 3.
I'm glad it's first fight.
Yeah, I've heard a few people say that they're excited for it, but I'm never excited to watch either of those two fight. And that's no slight on the skill or disrespectful. They're just not... They don't have the friendliest of styles. They're a bit Isaac Chamberlain. He's a bit like that. Decent, but he's just a tough watch, man. A tough watch.
Yeah, there's been a lot of cruiserweights like that over the recent years.
It's the Chris Billum-Smith fight I'm intrigued by because Glanton is world level. And if CBS is not on it, that's the fight that could see
he could stop surprise. CBS if he's not on it.
Yeah.
And that's
it's a tough fight.
CBS has ever been stopped either, so...
Look, for me, Brandon Glanton is the biggest unknown commodity on this card that can propel his boxing career and his star quality the most, because everyone else, even on a British level, we've heard of, even Vidal Riley and Chev Clark have some sort of face within the British boxing space. Brandon Glanton isn't known very well in America, never mind on a British stage, so he's got the most to gain on this card. You know, like we said, if Billum Smith isn't fully recovered from his injuries, if he is not the same fighter now, he's had the taste of being a world champion, then a hungry American with everything to prove on a big stage is going to make a statement, isn't he?
Yeah, definitely. I've no interest, Jams, at all. I don't know why it's on the card.
A trilogy that no one needs.
I don't even think Yard and Arthur are interested in it based on what I saw at the arrivals today. Anthony Yard looked like he was bored out of his brain answering
He did, didn't
on
he?
the media. He just looked disinterested. And do you know what? That could play into Lyndon's hands. Like, unfortunately, with this card, like Vidal and Chev, like Yard Arthur 3, there's two fights there that are, good namesake in them, Jay, if you want to call it that. Like, you look at all the names involved in the fights and you're like, yeah, decent operators, well known. But like the stylistically gelling of the matchups for me, I don't, I'm hardly going, massive, great card, buzzing for it. I'm not.
I tell you what I like about it. I like the fact that there's no shit fillers. It's just 5 trade fights, 5 fights, bish, bash, bosh. It'll be done for 11 o'clock. There's no fillers. There's no prospects. There's no ticket sellers. They've just put the biggest fight on. They've put 4 decent fights underneath it. They're all pretty much 50-50s, really. 60-40s at worst. That's what I like about it. The fights themselves are not necessarily all barnstormers and got us all, really eager to watch them. It's the main event, but it'll build up nicely. This one could have been called the crescendo, to be fair, because it's trickling up, isn't it, until you got the cut. I think, is Smith McKenna co-main or is it Yard Arthur?
Yard Arthur's co-main.
Yeah, which is stupid. You should have put Smith McKenna as co-main for me. But look, I like the fact that it's a short card of decent fights. No one-sided fights, really, other than the main event.
Definitely.
5 12-round fights, and there's potential for 5 fights to go 12 rounds. So we're going to get a good night of boxing, regardless of what happens. I think, look, Chev Clark and Riley being the curtain jerker, so to speak, is probably the best thing. Least people in the stadium, if you
Are they all 12s? I thought it were 4 10s and a 12.
All 12s.
You sure?
Oh, dear. Love it, Abdul. Anything further to add on that card, boys, before I just ask you one more before we wrap up?
What does that mean? I don't understand what Abdul means. Trade, construction, builder, bricklayer.
He's talking about them being trade fights.
He obviously don't know boxing, but come back when you do.
No, look, Jay's nailed it, and I think an interesting point as well, that before everyone's saying by Turkey standards, this is a substandard cards, but I think if you went to British boxing fans, so real boxing fans, not the casuals that dip in and out, about 2 years ago and said, these are the 5 fights we're going to put on in the stadium, how would you feel about it? We would say it's a fantastic card. There's a lot of spoiled recency bias and seeing comments of this is a poor card, etc. Okay, by Turkey standards, it's not as good as what we had on 22nd of February, but compared to what we were getting in the UK 2 or 3 years ago, this is a very good card. So that's the perspective of it. Recency bias doesn't help anyone.
No, and look, as I said before, the 50-50, 60-40 fights, it's for people like us that are, love boxing and would watch any card. It's got some good clashes that all have an impact on the division, be that for domestic titles, world titles, etc. And I like the fact that they're not trying to shove force prospects on us.
Yeah,
because they do that a lot. They force prospects on us. So it's good. I like it. It's, as I say, the fights are not barnstormers, but that's not to say that they couldn't turn out to be. I think McKenna and Smith can't fail to be a good fight. They both come forward.
Best bit of boxing since Feb 22nd, isn't it? Like you said, for me.
Yeah,
and I think Lyndon Arthur's got a point to prove, and so has Yard. So I think it'll be the best of the 3 fights that they've had. I know we've had one.
Yeah.
Well, it's 1-1 anyway, isn't it? It's 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, it's 1-1.
Look, if for the sake of the fact it's a trilogy at 1-1, that's why we're seeing it. But there is absolutely zero appetite.
Thing is, there's zero appetite for it because the 1 Yard won the rematch. It was emphatic. It wasn't even banged him out in 4 rounds easily. So there was no clamber for a trilogy. But last one I want to ask you. Go on, Liam.
I was going to say, it sums up Yard's career. It's only the 5th time in his career he's got a TBA as an opponent. 3 Arthurs, Kovalev.
TBA, Kovalev, better be able or Arthur, isn't it?
Yeah, or TBA. But it says it all. Anyway, sorry, mate, go on.
I was going to say, I just want to get your thoughts on the ring card. I think it's been announced for the 12th of July. Hamza Shiraz against Edgar Berlanga at Super Middles, headlining it. You got Shakur against Zepeda on on the undercard. There's a few other fights that, you know, would be classed as decent fights, I guess you would say, on the card as well. But I don't know if either of you saw the announcement. Have you got any thoughts on Hamza starts as an underdog against Edgar Berlanga?
It's an interesting card, isn't it? I mean, this is to launch the Ring Magazine TV show or whatever, so there has to be a fight card to launch the Ring Magazine TV show. Whatever, you're giving us boxing, that's the most important.
Is it in New York?
Yeah.
Right, MSG is it? Or
I don't know. I think it might be Brooklyn Center, whatever it is, mate. But Hamza and Edgar Berlanga is an interesting fight. Edgar Berlanga looks like he's cashed out of boxing from how he looks since the Canelo fight. And yes, he made a statement with his stoppage of the last performance, but let's take that for what it was. Hamza has a lot of questions to answer after the performance we saw against Adames.
Yeah, he should have lost that fight.
I think he loses. I think Hamza Shiraz gets stopped.
It's a tough fight. Berlanga can bang. That's one thing.
I think he gets stopped.
He hits very hard. Edgar Berlanga.
Bad mistake.
He's got Andy Lee now, though. But
yeah, it's a gut check he doesn't need yet. He doesn't need... Look, he's moving up, but you don't need to be going straight in with someone like Edgar Berlanga, who, if you beat realistically, what sort of credit's he going to get because of the sort of reputation Berlanga has? And if he loses, it's a bad loss. For me, it's the wrong fight to take. Shakur and Zepeda, finally we get to see it. Look, it's taken Shakur moving to Matchroom, Turkey sitting down in a room with both of them, and Oscar deciding to put up one of his prize assets to finally see it. I think we're going to see finally the levels of Shakur in that fight. But yeah, it's another strange card, mate. I think there's only 4 fights on the card. It's another one of these Ring Magazine cards that have got some sort of weird title to it because they're launching something. But look, if we're getting fights like this 7-8 times a year, we're not going to complain, are we?
No, we can't. We can't. The fights are starting to be made now. I know we've had a bit of a lull. And look, you've got to give Hamza his props. It's a fucking risky fight to come back to a new division and off the back of a loss, really, if truth be told. I think it's a terrible decision. But look, they've seen something that makes them believe they can win this fight. And if he's as good as what they say he is, then he should win this fight. I just think it's a bad mistake. I think he needed a fight before this.
Yeah, agreed.
But if Belanga's doesn't turn up, then, you know, Shiraz will box his head off.
Yeah, you've got David Morrell against Katev, is it, on the undercard as well? And Alberto Puello, who's been, obviously we're talking about Dalton Smith, he's facing Subriel Matias as well on the card. So it is a decent card, to be fair. I've no idea. Do you know why it is, though, Jack? If Turkey's paying for it, Hamza's his favourite. So that's
Hamza's
why...
the Riyadh season ambassador. So
yeah, that's why Hamza will be main event over the WBC world title fight.
And 2 WBC world titles. That's because you got...
Puello Matias as well, the WBC world title fight. I'm not sure about that hand history, Volt. I hope you're well, though. Thanks for joining us. I'm not sure that's officially confirmed. I heard that Shakur's building the bridges to do this, but I'm not sure that's officially official yet. Sorry, of course it is, yeah. It's... isn't that Taylor Serrano weekend?
Yeah, it is.
It is. It's the same weekend as Taylor Serrano, isn't it, on Netflix?
Is Taylor Serrano on the Friday?
I think Taylor Serrano 3 is on the Friday, and then that's on the Saturday. So, they wouldn't go back-to-back in MSG.
Good weekend for body clocks, boys.
So, yeah, but that's a good weekend of boxing anyway. We'll wait to see where it is. Shakur and Matchroom hasn't really worked out, I don't think, and neither will it.
No, I think he's done it. They've said it's done. It's done. Well, we had 2 fights, didn't he? And this is his second.
Well, I saw that, Jams. Lou DiBella did say that, but Eddie said contrary. So I don't know. I'll wait till it comes out of Shakur's mouth. But it sounds like the plan is in place for Shakur to. He wants to basically I think he wants to self-promote and DiBella to kind of take care of the paperwork, judging by what I've kind of read. But Shakur's not. He needs to run.
He's not a ticket seller, mate. He needs a dance partner to get big fights. Yeah. He's not big enough. He's not a draw. He needs a dance partner to get big fights.
I agree, Jay.
Cheers, Jack. So you need to be very careful because he's with one of the best connected promoters in boxing at the moment, and he should be doing everything he can to stay in and around Hearn, because Hearn holds all the cards.
That says he's got
Matchroom's where he
one
needs
fight
to be,
left
mate.
on his deal with Matchroom, so maybe he has to do this one with Matchroom. I don't know.
Well, he left Top Rank, didn't he? Because he felt like he wasn't getting the exposure and opportunities with Top Rank. So if you're now telling me after only one fight, or even if he does it after this fight, he leaves Matchroom, I think it says more about Shakur's state of mind and how he views himself rather than what he wants from a promoter. So, he comes, we know he thinks of himself very highly. We know he talks himself up, etc., etc. And that's just being proven if he does now decide to manage his own career and use Lou DiBella for the legal paperwork that he probably has never really thought about himself.
Yeah, I agree with what Jam said as well. I know he's had a few choice words for Turkey, I think, as well. So, yeah, Zepeda will test him, in my opinion. I think it'd be a good fight. I'm interested to see what Zepeda can do with Shakur. So, yeah, look, we'll watch the card. I'm interested in it. Anything else to cover off, boys, before we round up?
Not really. No, I think I'm done. I think we've covered it all.
Yeah, not Ben Whittaker.
What do you think to the new? What do you think to the new mic, boys?
Yeah, it's
nice,
good bit of kit. Good bit of kit. JT, I was going to ask you about Ben Whittaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Whittaker and Mr. Cameron. I appreciate that. Buying me a new mic.
I was going to ask you about Grant Smith versus Ben Whittaker and Bare Knuckle.
What sickened me about it all is the narrative that he spat on him when he didn't spit on him.
Grant came out and squashed that straight away. He was like, nah, that didn't happen.
But Grant is very, very lucky that he didn't connect because Ben Whittaker could have reacted. That could have kicked.
I think he kind of like it was like a half slap, wasn't it? Like
it wasn't. Look, and he went straight over and they made it right. And they're all jumping.
Andy Lee did well there. I think he kind of just diffused it all straight away, didn't he? But
and a big shout out to Clifton Mitchell because he calmed Tete down like I've never seen.
I was just about
50 people in the ring. Clifton Mitchell came in and just said, "Chill out, brother."
Yeah, and let's give Kevin Parker, the referee, there some credit as well because he took a couple of punches from Tete as well. If you watch the very first thing, Kevin Parker's got
Big Phrase did, to be fair. Yeah, shout out to Big Phrase as well. Good
forgot about that.
Good to see him back.
I was worried about him before.
Yeah, like it. Yeah.
So I have to say that he proved me wrong. I didn't think he was going to get beat. I just had a terrible feeling, but he proved that he'd exercised all the demons that he had from that devastating loss. So I hope he gets the winner of Adelaide and TKV.
That's what he needs, mate. Yeah, look, got to be pleased for Big Phrase. It was just, no one liked seeing how he looks after that Wardley rematch. Everyone questioned what he had left. Was he be able to get back in the ring even, never mind have a fight, and he blew Tete away in just over 90 seconds. So
Brilliant.
The thing now is don't allow him to sit out till the autumn for the winner of Adelaide and TKV because that's going to come in a few months.
Well, no, he needs a fight in between, doesn't it?
Get him out again because, look, under 2 minutes of action in a year, probably by the time he gets hold of that winner for the British title, isn't enough. He needs activity. We need him.
Has he fought Sol Dakers?
No.
Get him in with Big Sol.
Yeah, Luke will be all over that. I love that fight, but I won't put Whittaker in there with Boazzi next.
Lewis Edmondson at home, mate, for British.
Yeah, I think they'll do that, Liam.
Dan Aziz for me, I think Dan Aziz next before British. I think he needs a gauge first.
Well, Aziz is back on Thursday. He's fighting in Glasgow. So
I saw that.
See how Aziz looks.
Chantel was at all of those announcements from what I saw with him.
Yeah,
Chantel Cameron looks like she's eaten the girl that was Chantel Cameron. She has not.
That was just a silly move to join Queensberry, though. Like, I just don't know why she even did it in the first place.
Don't have any female fighters, do they?
Yeah, but like,
Has she left Queensberry? Or
yeah,
just
I haven't seen the news, but it makes sense what Pat said because she's been at those MVP launch announcements. Anyway, I saw her there with.
She's not a draw. She's not a draw. I've seen her asking on LinkedIn for sponsors and stuff, and she's, a former world champion that lost a razor-thin decision to Katie Taylor. I feel that she's been a little bit disrespected, and they're not getting behind her, so they've allowed her to go when, the other fellas. But look, she'll make a lot of money over there, won't she? Probably. Listen, size of her. I'm not joking now, right? I'm not joking, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, right? But I'm not sure if they're going to try get her to fight Claressa Shields.
Wouldn't surprise me, mate.
They're talking about who are they talking about? Baumgartner against Shields, weren't they? Something like that. But
mate, that'll be everything to do with that fight we watched on mute with the way those two speak.
I can't listen to them too.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
But thanks to everyone for joining us tonight. Much appreciated. Jams at Red Corner Boxing. Big up to yourself. great channel. Go and subscribe. DJ Pat, Abdul, thanks for stopping in. Jack at Absolute Boxing, another great channel to subscribe.
Thank you.
Hand History Vaults. Who else have we got? And Mad Mitch, big up to Mitch for stopping by. Lloyd Hernandez. Who else was in there? Masterworks. Thank you very much, guys, for joining us. David Rope as well, another fantastic channel. Humble Apple Crumble. Hopefully see you all later in the week. We've got our predictions for the big card on Saturday. Liam's Fight Night picks will be out tomorrow, I believe, over on JFT's channel.
Yeah.
The boys, no doubt, will get straight talking at some point as well. So don't forget to sub up to Jay's Fight Talk YouTube channel. Jay, Liam, been a pleasure as always, boys. Looking forward to a massive end to this week. And then, of course, next week we've got the three big cards to talk about. Starting in New York on Friday, headlined by Ryan Garcia against Rolly Romero. So that'll be big week next week. Big Martin Bacoli back in Riyadh on the Canelo card as well. Inoue on Sunday. So yeah, buzzing for next week. But let's get the small matter of Eubank Benn out the way this week.